everyone. It is 8:41. Welcome to WeAreIowa Live. Lou and Jackie here, along with the privacy professor, Rebecca Harold, because boy, oh boy, things are getting more and more interesting and security utmost importance.
It is.
And we are just about 10 weeks away from the election,
yes.
Which is really going to be, this could change the direction of the country. We don't know.
Right.
And you have found some things out on the internet that about anybody can find.
Oh, exactly, exactly. I mean, in the last 2 weeks, there's been a lot of talk in the information security and privacy world about this search engine called Shodan.
Now, this is the one that you've talked about a couple of times
Yes.
before. And how do you spell this, first of all?
Shodan, Shodan.
Shodan.
So you can go out to Shodan, you can get a free account. Now, if you pay for an account, you can do even more wonderful things and do more wonderful searches, but I am doing just the free account just to show how easy it is to find information. And basically, Shodan is considered to be the Internet of Things search engine. So, when you go onto Google or Bing, you're doing a search for a string of words, right? Well, when you use Shodan, you're actually looking for specific types of systems or specific types of IP addresses and so on.
For example?
So like with hospitals and the medical devices, there was a researcher who announced at this year's security conference, one of them, there's many, that was held, but she actually did research on how many different medical devices that she could find in just one hospital system, and through Shodan. She found over 1,000 different medical devices from a remote location using Shodan.
What do you mean found them? You mean found and had access to them or to manipulate them? Or?
Well, possibly. What Shodan will do is it will give you a listing of everything that meets your search requirements.
Okay.
And it will come back and tell you such things as where it's located, what type of system it's running on, whether or not there's a password required, whether or not there's encryption, and it will give you this long list of different types of items it found. And then you can drill into that list to a specific item to get the details. And so over the past few years, this Shodan, and it's actually been called the most terrifying search engine on the internet, but basically it's being used, and other types of search engines probably exist like this too, but it's being used to show how insecure or unsecure our different types of devices are that are attached to the internet.
So if you're a hacker, that's the kind of information you're looking for, and you can just basically Google it as we would with a normal
you can
word.
Shodan it.
Yeah, you can Shodan it.
You can Shodan it. So there's another search engine, I've not used it, it's called Census, C-E-N-S-Y-S, that's also a similar type, and I'm sure there's other tools too. But this Shodan has been used to find a wide range of things. It's been used to find dam controllers. So, imagine if those aren't secured and people start fiddling with them and changing the controls. It's been used to find such things as a crematorium. It was able to find the actual controls at a crematorium.
No way.
At power stations. It's been able to find it. So anything.
That's scary.
You've heard about this in the past with Shodan because it talked a lot about the nanny cams and the security cameras. And certainly you can find those as well. But it can find so much more. And so I think the first lesson today is that if you have anything that's secured or that's attached to the internet, you need to make sure that you have good security on it, because a lot of the things that's being found don't have passwords, or they're using default passwords.
Now,
so
a lot of people have these security cameras, these wireless security cameras around their home, which is really popular all of a sudden.
And through Shodan, you can actually get into see where all of these different cameras are. You could put, you could do a search to find the ones here in the Des Moines area, which I've done, and I've actually seen a lot of them. And you can then go into them and you can tell if they're not secured or if they're using the default that they never changed. You could actually view the live stream. So,
really?
Yeah. So if you have anything that's attached to the internet, make sure that you use two-factor authentication.
Now, what if you have a router that has its password protected?
That's good.
That's okay?
Well, it depends too if you only go through the router or if you're going through some other type of connection, like maybe a public Wi-Fi, depending upon where you're located.
And so many homes these days are
They're set up with
the
hubs.
Internet, everything.
And then the
Yes.
security systems now are wireless
Yes.
for home security
Yeah.
systems, and you see those being advertised quite often now.
So, you know, all these things, and I want to kind of reflect back to what we talked about earlier this month with the voting systems.
Yeah. How does this relate back to our elections that aren't far away?
Those voting systems now are overwhelmingly attached to the internet, right? That's how they're getting results back to the central location. Well, we're finding all sorts of voting systems using this type of search tool, and it really concerns me. I have the concerns I expressed earlier this month, but you know, this just amplifies it.
now, explain what those concerns were for those people that may not have joined us for that.
Well, with the security systems, it's overwhelmingly found that most of them are built on very old systems that have not been updated since they were originally put out there, like 11 years ago, 15 years ago. So they're running on old systems that are no longer supported by Microsoft or whatever other operating system vendor it is. So that means all the vulnerabilities that exist in them have not been patched, and so people can get into them. So now using Shodan, this is something that I actually spent just a couple of minutes on in prepping for this.
A couple minutes?
Just a couple of minutes, and I want to show a couple of images.
All right.
On the first image, what I want to show you, just on the search on Shodan,
Okay.
I did a search for, and I blacked out the stuff that, you know, has a lot of the details that I don't want to just put out there.
So what are we
Right.
looking at here?
So this shows you the basic Shodan results. So I did a
What were you
check
searching
on
specifically?
election, the word election,
Okay.
and then also in the United States as
Okay.
the country. Now, if I would have done a search, and I did this, but I didn't want to show it on TV, I did a search for very specific names of systems, and I got a lot more results.
Okay.
So this shows me all the different ones that has something related to this. Now, this doesn't mean that they're all unsecured, but this is giving me enough information about them that if I know what the vulnerabilities are in the system, I can say, oh, now this looks juicy, let me drill down. So if we go to the next image, this shows you if I wanted to drill into a specific image that
So
was
drilling
found.
down meaning just finding more information on
Yes.
one specific location.
Yeah, so
Okay.
you know when you Google something, you get a list and you click on it and you go into it.
Okay.
So here I clicked on one of the specific ones, and this was from a different search, but I want to show you how easy it makes it to find very detailed information. So I went into this one, and this one shows me at the top an actual location for where a very specific voting system, and this is a voting system that's popularly used, but I believe it's the Dominion voting system. So this is showing me where it found one, and what I'm not showing you is about 3 or 4 pages, if I would have scrolled down, of details that are telling me what type of encryption system it uses, if it does use an encryption system. It tells me about the authentication, it tells me about the operating system, the last version of it, and it's giving a lot of information about the types of applications that are on there as well. So by knowing that I have a voting system at this specific location, and I have all the details about it, if I wanted to be someone who did something malicious or I wanted to mess up the results at a certain
Manipulate
location.
them, so to speak.
Yes, through
That's
these,
all the information you would need?
for most, yeah, for folks who know about the systems and information security and hacking, and there's millions out there. So, you know, I'm not the only one. There's a lot of
Right.
people that are malicious. So they could go out there, and I guess my point to your viewers is, we no longer have the big problem with the hanging chads. You
Right.
know, that's a physical
Right.
thing. These are millions of hanging digital chads in our voting systems. We need to secure these voting systems. And what they need to do at each location where they vote, because different states have different rules for voting, right? Well, I believe each state needs to have a law that says at least 6 months before you vote, get somebody who's an expert and independent to do a risk assessment on your voting systems, find out where it needs to be secured, so that way when voting day gets here, you'll have time to fix it or update your system. The sad thing is, by looking through this search engine, I found a lot of old systems, XP, Windows XP systems, and even older than that out there. So there's old systems, they need to be updated, but also you need to make sure that when we have a actual election, you know, it's not about being rigged. Being rigged means that someone's purposely doing something to make it go a certain way.
Right.
This is just leaving the systems
door open.
for anybody to go in and do any types of changes to them if they aren't properly secured. And I think more attention needs to be put towards this. I wish our lawmakers would actually address this before we get into these big elections.
Because we're getting kind of tight on time.
Yeah.
We are getting tight on time.
Couple of months
yes.
away, and it's going to be one of the biggest elections we've ever held in this country.
Yeah, now's the time for all of our different areas who have voting systems to get in there and have someone who's an expert, because, you know, if a lot of times even the voting companies that create these, they might know how their system works, but they might not be experts in security. So you need to have someone who knows how to exploit these vulnerabilities to get in there and say, here's a problem, we need to do this to fix it, so that on election day we know the results are valid.
Well, Rebecca, maybe people out there want more information, and you're a great expert to go to, so how can they get in touch with you?
Yes, they can go out to my website. This is privacyprofessor.org, and you can send me emails from here. My email address is rebeccaharold@rebeccaharold.com, and on Twitter I'm privacyprof, so I get out there at least a couple of times every day to share information and so on.
That is
Perfect.
awesome. Yeah, so if you have any questions, obviously send them to Rebecca, and she does answer all her requests.
There you go,
too.
something to think about.
Wonderful. Again, getting us thinking before the election, as always. Thank you. Good job.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.